Pity seems so kind and gentle. Since childhood, we've been taught to help the weak, feel for those in hardship, and that only by doing so do we remain human. These words sound beautiful, but the truth is far harsher. There's a poisonous shadow hidden in this habit. Pity is not always compassion. Sometimes it's a trap, a subtle snare you fall into yourself, thinking you're doing good. Remember how it goes. You help someone, you give your strength, you spend money, time and energy, but what do you feel afterward? Gratitude? Joy? Number. More often than not, emptiness. It feels as if a battery has been drained from you. Your heart becomes heavy and the air around you, thick and dark. It is at this moment that pity turns into poison. Our ancestors knew pity can be more dangerous than anger. Anger is visible immediately, easy to spot. It's sharp, open, and aggressive. But pity is quiet. It seeps in like water through cracks and slowly destroys you from within. It steals your strength, confidence, and light. Tibetan text said, "Pity is the thread by which someone else's misfortune crawls into your home. And if this thread is strong, another's misery turns into your illness. Another's poverty becomes your debt, another's sorrow your apathy." That's why the wise taught, pity must be used wisely, and sometimes not at all. And there are people you should never pity. Yes, it sounds harsh, bitter, but that is the truth. There are people who are like bottomless vessels. No matter how much you pour in, they are always empty. No matter how much you give, it is never enough. They are not only ungrateful, but also drag you into the darkness. Imagine, you are holding a candle. It gives off light and warmth. But if you hold it up to a deep pit full of wind and darkness, the flame will instantly be pulled inside. You won't light up the pit. You will only lose your light. That's how pity works for those who live in ruin, envy, and darkness. Pity can become a door through which someone else's karma enters your life. Those who are weak of spirit, lazy of heart, and envious, they all know how to pretend to be miserable. They call to you with complaints and a victim mentality and quietly begin to drain your energy. Pity is a soft but strong rope. It ties you to another's suffering. Ancient wisdom said, "Don't pity everyone, or you'll lose yourself." Think about yourself. Has it ever happened that you helped a person again and again? You gave your strength, time, and money, believing that they would soon change, that they would get up and start living differently. Months and years passed, and nothing changed. Everything stayed the same as before. And inside you, it became heavier, poorer, and darker. This is the cruel truth. Not everyone who asks for help truly wants to live a better life. Many call for pity not to be lifted up, but to pull you down. Tibetan teachers said, pity is a temptation. It is disguised as kindness, but behind this mask, there is darkness that feeds on another's energy. Kindness without wisdom turns into poison. Pity without reason is an open door for another's demons. And today, you will learn which people you should never pity. I will tell you about the signs of those who, like leeches, suck the life out of others. And most importantly, at the end, we will do a practice that will help you protect your heart and energy from such traps. Hearing the bitter truth is one thing, but getting a tool that truly changes your life is another. So listen to this video until the end. And right now, write in the comments if you have ever had a time when pity turned into a disaster. Your experience might show others that they are not alone. When we talk about pity, it's important to understand clearly. We are not talking about human compassion, which can warm and support, but about the blind pity that turns you into a donor for another's problems. Compassion helps a person get up, while pity keeps them down. Our ancestors knew this difference well. Compassion is when you see the strength in a person and help them awaken it. Pity, on the other hand, is when you only see their weakness and start to believe in it yourself. And that is when the destruction begins. In villages, they said, if a person is constantly complaining but doing nothing, it is dangerous to pity them. Their moaning attracts dark energy, like a bell that calls disaster to your home. Tibetan monks taught that such people become pits where another's light goes to die. Everyone who bows to them with pity loses a piece of their strength. Why does this work this way? Because energy follows attention. When you pity someone who is swimming in their own darkness, you direct your energy to them. But it doesn't go toward healing, it goes to support their role as a victim. And the more you pity, the stronger this role becomes. Imagine, a person is sitting in a pit. They yell, Help me. You extend your hand and pull them into the light, but they go back down again and call for you again, and you pull them again. At first, you have enough strength, but over time your hands start to tremble, your energy leaves you, your breath becomes heavy, and the person is still down there. That's how pity works. It's an endless cycle where one person is always the victim and the other is always the donor. That's why it's so important to know the signs of those who are dangerous to pity. The first sign is eternal complaining. These people live in a flow of complaints. Their speech is always about how bad everything is for them, how unfair the world is, and how everyone else is to blame. They are not looking for solutions. They are looking for ears that will listen to them endlessly. In a typical difficulty, a person looks for a way out and grows. But eternal complaining is a sickness of the soul. When you start to pity such people, you are adding fuel to the fire. You are giving their illness the fuel it needs. The second sign is envy disguised as poverty. These people know how to play the role of the unfortunate. They complain that they have no money and that everything is falling apart for them. But behind their words, envy is always hiding. They will condemn anyone who has achieved prosperity through hard work. They will ask for help and secretly be happy if things get worse for you. Pitying such people means feeding envy, and envy will always turn against you. Ancient wisdom said, "Pity without measure, and they will be the first to throw a stone into your garden." And that's the truth. The third sign is constant dependence. These are people who never take steps on their own. They always need someone to decide for them, do for them, and take responsibility for them. Pity for such people turns you into their eternal crutch. You will carry them until you fall yourself. Tibetan monks taught, "Help once, that is compassion. Help always, that is slavery." Remember, your life was not given to you to be a slave to another's weakness. The fourth sign is ingratitude. These are the most dangerous. They can beg, cry, and promise eternal gratitude, but as soon as they receive help, they immediately forget about you. Their heart is empty. If you come again, they will take it for granted. Don't think that gratitude is a small thing. Gratitude is energy that restores balance. Where it doesn't exist, the law of exchange is violated. And where the exchange is violated, destruction always begins. And there is one more sign: eternal suffering without reason. These are people who live as victims. They like their suffering. It becomes their adornment. It gives them attention, care, and an excuse for inaction. Pitying such people is a ticket to an endless theater of another's pain. But in this theater, you won't be a spectator. You will be forced into the role of a savior, and in the end, you yourself will become an actor in a drama that will never end. That's why it's so important to understand. Pity is not always a good thing. It can be a door through which illness, poverty, and emptiness enter your life. Pity makes you not the master of your own destiny, but a shadow of another's. Our ancestors left us a command: pity wisely. This means seeing where help is truly needed and where people are playing on your kindness. It means preserving your strength and not wasting it on those who don't appreciate it. Your energy is priceless. It is more valuable than gold, more valuable than any treasure. And every time you give it to the wrong person, you are depriving yourself of a future. Pity is a bridge by which another's darkness crosses into your life. And the more often you open this bridge, the faster it turns into a one-way road. Listen carefully. Very soon, we will delve even deeper and look at other people you should never pity. You will find out what they look like, how they act, and why they are especially dangerous. This knowledge can save you from many troubles and energy leaks. But for now, ask yourself an honest question. How many people in your life already live off your pity? Maybe they are the ones stealing your strength. Now let's go a step further. There are people for whom pity is especially destructive. The sixth sign is manipulators of suffering. They have made pain an instrument of power. Such people know how to tell stories in a way that makes your heart heavy, as if you are obligated to help. They exaggerate, amplify, and paint their troubles in the darkest colors. And as you listen to their complaints, a feeling of guilt is born inside you. It seems that if you don't help, you will be a cruel person. But this is the trap. Where you are forced to help through guilt, there is no sincerity, no light. It is just a trap. A manipulator will never say directly, "Give me your strength." But their words and actions will make you hand it over yourself. First, it's small requests, then more serious ones, and everything is wrapped in the packaging of suffering. Pitying such people is like signing a contract where you are always the debtor and the other person always receives. The seventh sign is destroyers. These are people who not only don't appreciate help, but also use it to harm themselves and others. You give them your strength, resources, and money, and they turn it into drunkenness, quarrels, and new troubles. No matter how much you pity them, it is never enough. It's a black hole where everything disappears without a trace. People used to say, pitying a drunk is like pouring water into a sieve. No matter how much you pour in, it will never fill up. In the end, you are left devastated, and the destroyer even blames you for their misfortunes, because such people always find a reason to shift the blame. The eighth sign is those who don't want to change. Life has brought them to their knees dozens of times, but they choose to stay there again and again. They are comfortable in the role of a sufferer because it allows them to receive attention and support. Pitying them is an agreement with their refusal to use their own power, and if a person doesn't grow, they drag down those around them. Remember how many times you have seen people who complain about fate but reject any chance to change something. This is not weakness. This is a conscious choice. And when you pity such people, you unintentionally agree with this choice and in a way endorse it. The ninth sign is people who carry darkness within them. At first glance, they may seem modest, quiet, and even kind. They can speak softly and smile, but if you start to pity them, strange things start to happen in your life. Illnesses, quarrels, losses. Pitying such people opens the gates for their darkness. In ancient teachings, it was said that every person has a key to their destiny. Pity is like handing over that key to someone else. If their hands are clean, you will find protection and growth. If they are tainted, you will find downfall. That's why it's so dangerous to confuse compassion and pity. Now think, why is pity so destructive? Because it is energy given without awareness. Compassion is light that is directed with understanding and wisdom. Pity is a raw stream of power that leaks out without you even noticing. And where your power goes, your luck, money, and health go with it. Pity is especially dangerous for women. Our grandmothers said, "A woman's pity is a knot." A woman pitying a weak man often became his rescuer, sacrificing herself. But this knot pulled her down. She lost her joy, beauty, and lightness. The man, instead of getting up, became even weaker. That is how families were destroyed and fates were broken. A man's pity also carries a threat. A man who pities a woman living in the role of a victim becomes an eternal rescuer. But a rescuer is not a hero. He is a shadow who always gives and never receives. And in the end, he is left without strength, without respect, and without support. Tibetan monks taught, pity is not a virtue, but a test. A test of whether you can distinguish where help brings light and where it brings darkness. And if you confuse one with the other, you become a victim of another's fate. Remember, not everyone who asks for pity deserves it. In the world, there are real sufferers who truly need support. But there are also those who feed on pity like a vampire on blood. Your task is to tell them apart. Imagine you are holding a jug of clean water. This is your energy. It is not endless. If you pour it into the sand, you will have no drop left. But if you give this water to a seed, a tree will grow that will bear fruit for decades. Pity is the sand, compassion is the seed. Think about whom you are giving your water to. Maybe pity is behind your fatigue, your family problems, and the fact that money doesn't stay in your hands. Our ancestors were harsh. They didn't pity everyone. They helped those who strove for light, and those who drowned in their own darkness, they walked away from. This is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is the knowledge that you cannot tie your fate to those who are heading for the abyss. And if you start to see these signs, your life will change. You will stop wasting energy. You will start to save it for those who are worthy. And that means in your life, there will be more strength, light, and joy. Sometimes pity seems natural. The heart clenches when you see another's pain. But this is exactly where the trap lies. Pity is not about kindness. Pity is about handing over power. You open the door to your home and let in not a guest but a thief. Compassion heals and lifts, while pity cripples and destroys. Our ancestors knew this and said, pity is a short path to poverty. Note, Not compassion, not mercy, but precisely pity. Because pity is energy without direction. It flows where it is pulled, and most often into a pit. Remember how many times you have pitied those who didn't want to change? How many times you have pitied a drunk who returned to the bottle again and again? How many times you have pitied someone who only complained but did nothing? Every time you gave away a part of your strength. And what did you get in return? New fatigue, a new feeling of emptiness. Tibetan teachers said, pity is an attachment to another's pain. It hooks you by the heart but does not lead to the light. It is a rope on which someone hangs their burden, and you carry it behind you. And the more you pity, the heavier this burden becomes. Remember the stories you have certainly heard or seen yourself. A woman pitied her lazy neighbor, gave him food and helped with chores, and he remained a lazy person. Only he became even more insolent. A man pitied a relative who had lost everything in cards, lent him money, and he went to play again and lost everything again. This is not kindness, this is a trap. The longer you are in it, the more you lose yourself. Wise people knew, pity does not strengthen ties, it destroys them. It does not do good, it creates dependence. It turns you into a donor. And the more you pity, the faster the other person learns not to live by their own strength, but to live at your expense. Pity has another terrible side. It gives access to your luck. When you pity someone who carries darkness within them, a part of their darkness enters your destiny. And suddenly, where everything was good for you, illnesses, conflicts, and losses begin. You don't understand where all this came from, but you forget the most important thing. You yourself opened the door through pity. Imagine that your energy is a candle. Pity is when you lean over and light another's candle, but you don't notice that your own is slowly going out. And if the other person's candle goes out again, they will come to you for fire again. And it will continue like this endlessly until you are left with darkness. Wise people said, compassion gives you a fish and a fishing rod, and pity gives you nets in which everyone gets tangled. When you have compassion, you give a chance to get up. When you pity, you strengthen another's weakness. That's why it's so important to distinguish whom to lend a hand to and to whom to say a firm no. Compassion is clarity, pity is a fog. And in a fog, it's always easy to fall into a pit. Often, pity is born not of kindness but of fear. Fear of being a bad person. Fear of judgment. Fear of seeming heartless. But remember, true light is not in giving your strength to everyone. True light is the wisdom of choice. It may seem to you that if you stop pitying, you will become harsh. But this is not harshness, it is maturity. It is the ability to see the difference between true help and destruction. Between someone who is ready to stand up and someone who never wants to get up. Pity is like carrying water to a place where there is only sand instead of soil. Compassion is like watering a sprout that will eventually grow into a tree. Tell me yourself, will you carry water to the sand again and again, knowing that it will disappear without a trace? Number. But then why do you continue to give your strength to those who are not going to change? Each of us has an internal source of energy, and if we waste it, it will run dry. For some, this source goes into pity. For some, into anger. For some, into fear. But all these roads lead to the same place, to emptiness. And emptiness always attracts illness, poverty, and misfortune. That's why the ancients advised, keep the source within yourself. Do not open it to everyone, and especially not to those who live off another's pity. Now, face the truth. How many people in your life live off your pity? Maybe it's relatives who have complained for years but never act. Maybe it's acquaintances who ask for support and then use it to harm themselves. Or maybe it's even close people who say they love you, but in fact they only love your pity. Think about this honestly. Are you ready to continue giving them your strength? After all, if you stop pitying those who don't deserve it, there will be room for the real thing. For helping those who are truly ready to get up. For taking care of yourself and your loved ones. For strengthening your own path. Pity is a fog that prevents you from seeing. But if you dispel it, a clear road will open before you. A road where there are no other people's knots, other people's burdens, other people's darkness. A road where there is only your strength, your light, and your destiny. There is ancient wisdom. If pity enters the heart, strength leaves the hands. These are not beautiful words. They are the law of energy. It always works. Pity makes a person a victim not only of another's pain, but also of their own destiny. Because as long as you pity those whom you should not pity, You voluntarily give up your strength. But there is a way that helps you regain control. This path begins with a simple exercise. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in the center of a circle. Around you are many people. Some hold out their hands with gratitude, others with a demand, and a third group looks with empty eyes, expecting you to give them a part of yourself again. Now imagine that a bright, transparent dome appears between you and them. This dome is your protection. It lets in love, kindness, and gratitude, but reflects pity and darkness. Take a deep breath and say to yourself, I see another's pain, but I don't allow it to steal my strength. This is a simple practice, but if you do it for at least a few minutes a day, you will feel the difference. Pity will stop controlling you. You will begin to distinguish where help is truly needed and where you are simply being used. Remember, compassion gives strength to both you and the one you are helping. Pity, however, takes it away from both. Therefore, every time your heart is drawn to pity, ask yourself a question. Is this my strength or is it my weakness? There is another simple but very powerful exercise. Take a sheet of paper and write down the names of the people you pity most often. Look at this list carefully. Next to each name, write honestly. What do I receive when I pity this person? The answers can be different: fatigue, irritation, emptiness. And if you see that this is the case, then it is not help, but an energy leak. Our ancestors said, pity is like a leaky basket. No matter how much water you carry, it will still leave. That's why you need to learn to close these holes. Learn to say no. Learn to preserve your strength. And learn to distinguish where it is worth supporting and where it is better to leave a person to their own lesson. This is how the law of the universe works. Everyone has their own task, their own karma, their own path. When you pity excessively, you prevent a person from going on their journey. The universe doesn't like it when its laws are interfered with. Then it punishes both the one who is pitied and the one who pities. One remains in their weakness, the other loses their strength. Many people ask, isn't it cruel not to pity? But in fact, it is wisdom. Cruelty is to deprive a person of their path, their lesson. And wisdom is to allow them to go through what they must go through. Even if it is painful, even if it is difficult, this is how souls become stronger. If you take away a person's ability to overcome their difficulties, you deprive them of the chance to grow. And this is true cruelty. Therefore, remember, pity is an enemy, compassion is an ally. Pity makes you weak, compassion makes you strong. Pity steals energy, compassion multiplies it. If you learn this difference, your life will change. You will stop being a donor for other people's problems. You will stop carrying other people's burdens. You will stop living someone else's destiny. And then your own strength will begin to return to you. Take one more step right now. Close your eyes and remember the person you pity most often. Feel them standing next to you. Now say to them, mentally or aloud, I see your pain, but I do not pity you. I choose to believe in your strength. And notice how your state changes. Instead of heaviness, lightness will come. Instead of emptiness, clarity. This is the true power of compassion. The universe is always watching. It sees where you direct your energy. If you give it to the emptiness of pity, it gives you even more emptiness. If you direct it to strength, to clarity, to love without pity, it gives you even more strength. This law always works. That's why from today on, you need to stop pitying those you should not pity. Start seeing the difference. Start respecting other people's paths. Start protecting your own energy. Remember, your strength is your wealth. Don't give it up in exchange for pity. Save it for the real thing, for those who are ready to get up, for those who walk alongside you, and for yourself. You have already taken the first step because you have heard this truth. But the next step is even more important. To apply it, then you will see how your life changes. Write in the comments who you pity most often and how you feel afterward. Your words can open the eyes of others because many people go through the same thing. Share your experience so that the people around you understand. They are not alone. It is very important to understand. Pity is not a small character weakness, but a huge hole through which your life leaks away. Every time you give into it, you are like throwing open a door and inviting another's misfortune to come inside. And it doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself that it's kindness, the result will still be destructive. The person you pity will likely not change, but you will definitely change. You will become weaker, heavier, fatigue will begin to live inside you, and gradually you will notice your strength leaving. Pity always deprives both people of energy. It does not heal, lift, or cleanse. It only strengthens another's weakness and kills your strength. Remember how many times you have noticed the same thing in your life. As soon as you pity someone who is drowning in their own problems, your own affairs start to fall apart. At first, it seems like a coincidence. But over time, you realize there are no coincidences. Pity is a channel through which another's karma enters your home. You give a part of yourself, and with that, you open the gates to other people's problems. They become yours. And then illnesses, losses, conflicts, and loneliness begin. And you don't understand why everything is going wrong. Pity often disguises itself as kindness. It is soft, it is warm, it seems bright, but in reality, it is a mask behind which darkness is hidden. The person you pity feels better, not because they are growing, but because you are taking their burden onto yourself. But the burden doesn't disappear. It just changes shoulders. And the more people like that around you, the faster you will be bent under their weight. Think, how many people in your life live only on pity? Who looks not for a way out, but for a listener? Who looks not for a solution, but for a donor? Maybe it's a relative who always complains about their fate but never acts. Maybe it's a neighbor who constantly needs help but does nothing on their own. Maybe it's even a friend who returns to the same mistakes again and again, and you pity them again and again. Every time you give away a piece of your strength, and every time you feel emptier. Our ancestors were harsh not because they were heartless. They knew pity is poison, and therefore they only helped those who moved forward, who strove to rise, who were ready to fight. And those who sank into their own darkness and didn't want to change, they walked away from. This was not cruelty, but wisdom. Because by tying your fate to someone who is heading for the abyss, you fall with them. There is another fine line. Pity often appears in relationships between a man and a woman. A woman pities a weak man, sacrifices herself for him, and in the end loses her beauty, lightness, and joy. The man becomes even weaker, and her life turns into a knot of pain. A man pities a woman living in the role of a victim and turns into an eternal rescuer. But a rescuer is not a hero. He is someone who always gives and never receives. And in the end, he is left without support, without respect, and without love. This is how families are destroyed. This is how fates are broken. And it all begins with pity. Remember, pity is not a virtue. It is a test to recognize where your help brings light and where it brings darkness. If you confuse one with the other, you become a victim of another's fate. But if you learn to distinguish, you will preserve your strength. Your energy is priceless. It was not given to you to support another's weakness, but to create, grow, and move forward. And your life depends on where you direct it. Imagine that your energy is water. If you pour it into sand, it will disappear without a trace. If you water a seed, a tree will grow that will bear fruit. Pity is the sand. Compassion is the seed. The choice is always yours. Sometimes it seems to us that pity is the most natural feeling. The heart clenches when we see another's tears or pain. It seems that you can't just pass by, that you need to help in any way, whether with a word or a deed. But it is at this very moment that the most dangerous trap opens. Pity doesn't do good. Pity makes both the person you pity and yourself weak. It is as if you are giving the key to your destiny to someone else. And if their hands are clean, you can still stay safe. But if there is darkness in them, you are giving them not only your energy, but also your luck, your health, and your joy. Imagine there is a candle burning inside you. It lights your way and warms your soul. Pity is when you lean over to light another's candle, but each time, your own flame becomes smaller. And if that person sinks into darkness again and again, they will come to you for light again. And they will keep coming until you have nothing left. Then you will be left in the darkness, and they will go to look for someone else. Pity never satisfies. It only sucks you dry until everything is drained. Wise people knew, compassion lifts, pity destroys. Compassion gives a chance to become stronger. Pity makes you a slave to another's pain. Compassion strengthens the bond, pity tears it apart. That's why it's so important to remember, not everyone who asks for help is ready to change. Not everyone who cries and complains really wants to get out of their trouble. Many are just looking for ears, a shoulder, a donor. And if you become this donor again and again, you are sacrificing your destiny for another's weakness. Ask yourself an honest question. How many people in your life live only on your pity? How many of them don't act and only pull you down? How many of them have already stolen your strength, joy, and time? And most importantly, are you ready to continue? After all, your energy is your wealth. It was not given to you to feed another's darkness. It was given to you for light, for your growth, for your life. Sometimes by refusing to pity, you may seem cold or heartless, but this is not coldness, it is maturity. It is the ability to distinguish. It is the understanding that you can only help someone who is ready to move forward, and someone who wants to stay down will drag you down with them. And that will not be kindness, but destruction. Remember, pity is a fog. In a fog, it's always easy to get lost, to go astray, to fall into a pit. Compassion is light. In the light, you can clearly see where to go. Close your eyes and imagine. There is a road in front of you. People are standing on the side of the road. Some look at you with gratitude, others with demands, and a third group with empty eyes. Some want to get up, others want to pull you down. And only you decide whom to give your strength to. Make a choice. Don't waste it. Save it for the real thing, for those who appreciate it, who are ready to grow. Our ancestors said, "If pity enters the heart, strength leaves the hands." They left us this command so that we would not repeat their mistakes. Therefore, if you want to preserve the light in your soul, learn to say no. Learn to distinguish where there is compassion and where there is pity. Learn to protect your inner source, and then you will see how your life changes. The fatigue will leave, clarity will come, and joy will return. Where there used to be other people's knots and other people's darkness, your own road will appear. A road of strength, light, and happiness.